program is presented by Success Society International. See you at the top. Start small, nail it, and then take it big. Hello, Champion Society. This is Vaibhav Nahata, your presenter for being champions with Vaibhav Nahata. You see, all of us from the very childhood have one determination, that we want to be very big, that we want to achieve big things, that we want to have all the wealth, all the health, all the money, etc. But my dear Champion Society, what we don't realize is that all the big is made by smalls, and all the smalls together is what takes and makes it big. So my dear Champion Society, what once happens is that in a shore in Japan, as you know, in Japan a lot of tsunamis, a lot of high tide waves keep on coming. So what happens one day is that due to the high wave, high tides, many of the starfish from the sea get thrown to the beach. And when there are so many starfishes in the beach, a man goes on, and out of thousands and thousands and thousands of starfishes in that beach, he takes one starfish at a time and throws it and helps it get back to the water. He keeps on doing that for an hour, and there is a pedestrian, a small person right there just side of the beach watching that man. He looks into that man's eyes and says him, "Hey man, hey old man, are you a fool? Don't you see that there are so many of these starfishes? How will you be able to put all of them in? You are just putting such a small effort. You know, there are so many starfishes and you are putting only one of them. What difference does it make?" What the old man says right then is an inspiration to all of us. You know what that old man says? That old man says that for one starfish I get back to the water, I save one life. And believe me, each life right there matters. I have saved one life with that tiny effort. I know there are thousands of these starfishes in this show. Of course I can't save all of those lives, but I can save this life, and that's what I did. My dear Champion Society, it's our habit, you know, when let's say we are talking about all the dirt in the road, all the waste things lying all around the road, we say that this is so dirty, and at the same time we throw our plastics, our wrappers right there in the road, and when someone asks us, we have a simple answer to give, and that answer is that, you see, that's dirt all over, there's dirt all over. What difference does my little piece make? Believe me, that little piece makes all the difference, because that little piece adds up to all of that there. It's so important for us to realize that every small effort we put gets added up. So in 1961, John F. Kennedy right there, the president of America, made an announcement that by the end of this decade we will land man to the moon for the first time in the history of humankind. Well, all of the newspapers all around the world were full with headlines, most of them with negative ones, some of them with a little positive note, and some of them saying that this mission was too ambitious to happen. Well, let's not talk about how ambitious it was and how it was later achieved in 1969 by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. What's more important is one thing I learned from that journey. You know, once upon a time, because he had committed, John F. Kennedy went to the NASA's station, and when he went to the NASA station, he saw a little person right there. He saw a person, a janitor. You understand a janitor? The one who cleans the floor. He went to the janitor who was cleaning the road. He was cleaning the floor right outside the lab he wanted to go. And outside that lab, when he was cleaning the floor, he asked John F. Kennedy to wait for a minute because it was wet and he could slip. So what happened is that JFK asked the man, "What are you doing?" What the janitor said, "I'm putting my part, I'm putting my effort to put the man into the moon. That's my part." You see, when we are recording this show right here, you see Vaibhav Nahata right here speaking, but along with Vaibhav Nahata, there's so many people working so hard to get this episode ready. You see, we have camera person right behind the camera who's watching to make sure everything is so perfect. You know, there are camera persons. Along with the camera persons, there are people in the video editing team, there are people in the MCR, and every single person is putting effort in their way. Every single person is putting effort, playing their part in that journey. You see, when we talk about making big things happen, sometimes we are little screw to a big machine. But what we can do is that to that big machine, if there is no presence of that little screw, it may not work properly, isn't it? Every little screw matters, and that's what I want you to realize. No matter what work you do, our question is that there's a work given to me. I have been aligned to work, or there's a work I have given to myself. How can I do it in the best possible way? How can I do it in a way that no one else can compete to me with it? There's one story that really inspires me so much. Virat Kohli was once asked that what does he feel when he fails at times? What does he feel when he loses matches? He says that I put effort in the gym every single day with my effort. I work with my team every day, and when I put that effort, when I kept my 120% every single day in the field and outside the field, I am answerable to no one. You know, if we put 120%, believe me, my dear Champion Society, even when we fail, we are satisfied from the very inside because we did our part. It's our part is to give the best in my work. When I'm making this episode, my part is to give the best and best of possible content to my audience, the Champion Society. And that's the part I will play. That's the part you have to play in your work. So my dear Champion Society, let's not talk about how small or big our work is. Let's not talk about how little role it plays to our long-term vision. What we have to ensure is that whatever little work we do it in such a way that no one can in the world compete with us on that. So dear Champion Society, before we move ahead and talk a little more about how little adds up to be big, I have a wonderful video to show you. So here comes the wonderful video, and after that wonderful video, I have something more to share you.
People say you can't change your career at 30, that's when you're meant to be settling down. You can't change your career at 35, you should have had it figured out by then. Oh my God, you're not married at 38? What the hell are you doing with your life? Who comes up with this stuff? I have no idea. But this stuff plagues so many people that I speak to. So many people open up to me and say, Jay, I just don't know how to change. Is it possible? What do you think this guy was before he became who he is? He used to be a PE teacher, right? Sports teacher at a high school. How about her? She was a telemarketer for 2 weeks. How about her? She applied to be a funeral director. It's incredible. What happens in society is that we're clouded by the noise of family expectations, the noise of our parents, the noise of our brothers and sisters' expectations. I grew up in a family where you could either be a doctor, a lawyer, or a failure, right? Those were my three options. Anything else would just count me as a failure. I would have failed. So basically I failed, right? I'm standing up here in front of you all as a failure. I lived as a monk for 3 years. I committed career suicide. I turned down 2 amazing corporate job offers when I graduated from business school. I shaved my hair, I wore robes, and lived out of a gym locker for 3 years. And I did that because I thought I was going to do something meaningful, help impact the world. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. But more than becoming a monk, what that trained me to do was drop out with the rules. People told me, if you come back in 3 years, you never get a job. They told me, if you become a monk, people are going to think you're weird forever. No girl's ever going to talk to you. People told me, they were like, well, when you come back to real life, like, will you even be able to talk English? And people were just really weirded out. I'm just like, okay, I think monks speak English. And there was so much different noise that I was hearing when I made that decision. And the funny thing is, from having not been a monk for 4 years now, I'm in one of the most incredible periods of my life that I could ever have asked for. And so much of that is based on the fact that I decided to do something different. So many of the times our expectations are driving us in a certain scenario. We focus so much on life in what we want to be as opposed to who we want to be. Because we've always been told that life and jobs and careers are like boxes and containers. There's only a finite number of options. There is no formula, there is no pattern. If you know what you're passionate about, if you know what you're good at, and you invest in that. People say follow your passions, I say forget that, invest in your passions. If you're passionate about something, go and become the best at it. Go and do a course on it. Go and learn from the best. Go and find a mentor who's going to make you incredible at that trait. Not only will you be criticized and grow, you'll be able to find new things about yourself that you never knew. Don't trade who you are for who you think the world needs, because the world needs you to be you, and I mean that.
I'm sure that little video inspired you. It inspired you and made you understand that every little bit adds up. Every little bit makes it big. Wow, I made it right there. Every little bit makes it big. So let's make sure that we put our little bit in the best possible way, because when we do our part, we feel satisfied. We feel like, oh yeah, I've done my part in the best. There's one little story I read just a few days back, and that really inspired me so much. So what happens is that there are three people working together to make a very, very, very big apartment, and there is one person, a stranger, that comes up to ask three people doing the same work of making a wall. He goes on and asks each of them what are they exactly doing. So he goes to the first person and asks, hey man, what are you doing? I see you with this bricks right there. And that man in anger says, can't you see right there, man? I'm putting this brick in this wall. Can't you see? It's so simple. You are seeing me with the brick, and at the same time you're asking me, how the hell can you do that when I'm working? The man went to the second person with the same question in exactly the same tone. He asked, hey man, what are you doing with that brick? The man, busy with his work, replies, I'm trying to make this wall. Remember, he's putting one brick at a time, but when asked what he's doing, he said, I'm making a wall. The first person says that I'm laying a brick, second person says, I'm laying a wall. I'm putting my part, my effort in making the wall. And then he goes to the third person and says him with the same excitement, with the same enthusiasm, hey man, what are you doing right there? The third man with all the enthusiasm looks back to the man and says, I am making one of the biggest apartment ever built in this city. The man was shocked. You see, he asked the same question, the same tone, with the same words, with the same excitement, with the same enthusiasm to the three people, and all the three people had different ways to answer to that question. How's that possible? My dear friends, sometimes when we start studying, let's say when there are three people studying together in a classroom, we know that someone from this classroom will go at the very top and someone might not reach that level. And these small things are what make all the difference. So the Champion Society, what I have to say you right now, right here, is that small is what makes it big. We all want to be big, but in the process of being big, we forget about the smalls. Believe me, if you want to take it big, every bit matters. So Champion Society, thank you so much for watching this episode of Being Champions with Vaibhav Nahata. Thank you for all your energy. Thank you for all your enthusiasm. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Being Champions. Before I sign up, I have this wonderful video to show you. And after that wonderful video, I'll get back to my place.
My parents' biggest frustration was that I was epically lazy, and if they handed out gold medals for being lazy, I would have won, I assure you, hands down. Because even though I was a slightly chubby kid growing up in a morbidly obese family in Tacoma, Washington, I always knew two things about myself. One day I was going to be rich, and I was going to have six-pack abs. Like, those are the two things, as that kid that was, jiggling his belly thinking, one day I'm not going to have to suck in my gut. When I left for college, my own mother, who'd always been my biggest cheerleader, quietly assumed I was going to fail. But these two guys that were successful entrepreneurs and bodybuilders happened to walk into a class when I was a teacher. And they were just starting a technology startup, and they said, hey, we need a copywriter. Why don't you come be a copywriter? And so I was just young enough and just dumb enough, and I went all in. They literally put me in the room with all the computer servers. But starting from there, I knew I could wow people because I was willing to grind it out. And we all have a superpower, and my superpower may be the willingness and ability to endure suffering. I had suffered a lot. I hadn't taken a day off in like 6.5 years because I was so hell-bent to get rich. And then I realized, almost 8.5 years in, I'd finally had enough. I had hit my breaking point from suffering, and I got so mad, and I was so unwilling to do it anymore. And I turned to my partners and I say, I'm completely miserable, I quit. I realized the reason I was living the cliche of money can't buy happiness, along the way had become so myopically focused on this promise I had made to myself as a kid that I never stopped to ask, why do I want to get rich? The questions you ask yourself will determine the course of your life. I had been asking myself, what do I need to do to get rich? And it left me really unhappy. So I changed the question, and I started asking, what would I do and love every day, even if I were failing? Life is too short. This is your one go-round. So what are we going to do? We're going to build a company that's predicated on value. We're going to build a company that's predicated on passion. I started thinking about my mom and my sister, but they were profoundly overweight. I started thinking about my uncle who ate himself to death when I was 12 years old, and how much that scared me, and it made me sad. And it made me sad to see that there were millions, if not more than 1 billion people that were in the same kind of abusive relationship with food that my mom and my sister were. So I said, I don't know if it's a big business, but I know it's a big problem. And that's the problem that we're going to solve. And so we decided to build a totally new kind of company. We started Quest Nutrition in 2010, just as we were coming out of the Great Recession. I was wearing a hairnet and a lab coat every day, and my employees were former gang members, ex-drug dealers, felons. We were in Compton, and we literally told everybody in the neighborhood, I don't care if you've been convicted of a crime. I just want to know if you're willing to bust your ass to change your life. And if you are, you're going to get an interview. And I'm not going to ask for your resume. I don't care about your resume. Your resume tells me where you've been. It doesn't tell me the price you're willing to pay to become somebody new. Every belief that you have is a choice. I choose to believe that human potential is nearly limitless. And this was the belief that changed my life. Because once I realized, so it's not about who you are today. It's about who you want to become and the price you're willing to pay to get there. And I promise you, the day that you're willing to pay any price, you'll achieve what you want to achieve. If you truly believe that human potential is limitless, what do you want to become? And what price are you willing to pay to get there?
I'm sure that video inspired you and helped you understand that you are the champion from the very inside. Thank you so much once again, the Champion Society. See you next Monday, 7 p.m. only on Being Champions with Vaibhav Nahata. See you soon. This program is presented by Success Society International. See you at the top.